I'm speaking with Sayra Begum. I'm going to talk about her debut graphic novel, Mongrel. Thank you for doing this interview, Sayra.
Thanks for having me.
And my first question, I'm going to make sure that I have this right. Well, I just wanted to, for an introduction for newcomers, your book covers quite a lot: family, religion, class, gender, on many different levels: personal, surreal, social commentary. How would you describe your book for somebody who's completely new to it?
So it's a very honest and frank telling of my memories growing up in a traditional Islamic household in Britain, and Shuna falls in love with a non-Muslim. So it's about how she, I guess, deals with this not being something that is accepted in Islam, as a Muslim man can marry a non-Muslim woman, but a Muslim woman can't marry a non-Muslim man. So I'll probably leave there before I say much more.
And we can jump into the sharing of your images. I wanted to start with that cover, just quite a striking cover. And I was interpreting it as maybe a conflict between mother and daughter, but it's actually Shuna veiled and unveiled. And you were,
Yeah, that's right.
and I mean, Shuna's going through a lot of, it's quite a journey of self-discovery and quite a lot of
Mm.
conflict she has to deal with. How would you describe that cover? You were saying earlier, before we started the interview, in an email that this was a great way to describe the situation, the theme.
Yeah, so you have the two patterns originally. So it's just the two patterns and her flesh, so without a hair or a veil. So I wanted it to look like a mask, and it was about this the versions of Shuna she chooses to present in different situations and different circles. And it looked very eerie. So, and these patterns didn't quite, you wouldn't instantly get what I'm trying to say with these Eastern and Western patterns without me explaining it. So the veil kind of needed to be added to represent the her Muslim identity within the book, and the non-veiled for her Western identity. So you've got the her dual identity on the cover quite clearly there.
Um, yeah, I'm going to try to just jump off script for a bit and just speak to the fact that Shuna is going through quite a lot of conflict, and it's not clear cut because she's also quite religious in her own way, wouldn't you say? There's no easy answer.
Yeah, I think that's something she's been navigating for a very long time, trying to figure out what the narrative she's been told growing up, what she does believe in and what she doesn't. And I think throughout the book, she establishes herself as being more of a spiritual individual who follows Islam, but not in a dogmatic sense. So she combines her Islamic belief with humanistic beliefs, like just her common sense as well, and what she believes is right and is wrong. Because I think for her, the issue with religion is that people don't like change within it, and they see it as being stagnant. And she wants to bring Islam forward, or her version of Islam, to like the modern day, so that it can be applied and relevant.
Feel free to jump through some images.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
So yeah, so I just wanted to show the face as a whole after the cover, where it's in two halves.
Sure.
And of course, this is the protagonist who reflects myself, and I've taken features and just really exaggerated them. And I looked a lot at Islamic miniatures and took influence from how they proportion people and how certain features are exaggerated. So there's a lot of kind of surrealist aspects in the book as well. So here she's you can see she's asleep and she's waking up, and her memories are taking her in and out of which place she's in. So is she in the UK, or is she back in the very memorable but brief period of time she spent in Bangladesh?
Can you tell us a little bit about the jinns? Because you make references to different things, and it's within the context that people can figure out what a jinn is. I mean, it's an evil spirit, but do you want to speak to that a little bit more?
Sure. So I'll skip to the images of the jinns. So jinns in Islam are creatures that were made from fire. They were created before us, and the angels were created from light. So jinns, they're not like angels. They don't have they're not like angels. They do have a choice whether they choose to believe or not to believe. So they, in this parallel universe, have their own own different societies like we do on Earth. So they have different religions, different cultures, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. And in Mongrel, jinns are used sometimes to reflect herself. So to this battle of good and evil, right and wrong. So when things get uncomfortable, when she can't admit her reality, she projects it on the jinns. So and I think it's something that you can see a lot in Bengali culture when somebody, I don't know, say does something that can't be explained easily. It's often attributed to they were possessed by a jinn, like they went on the wrong path because of a jinn.
Well, it's interesting that Shuna seems to believe in jinns. I mean, even though she's rebelling, she does have this kind of fear of jinns.
Yeah, she definitely just like Allah is real, jinn is real, and the shaitan is real.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, because the book, it involves Muslim culture and religion. Were you thinking maybe a little bit about Craig Thompson's blankets, and were you motivated to try to explain things? Or...
Yeah, Craig Thompson's blanket was actually a huge influence of mine, along with Marjane Satrapi's Persepolis. And with Craig Thompson's blankets, there was something. It was actually one of the first graphic novels I read, autobiographical graphic novels, and I really identified with it. And it was when he speaks about the creation of art as a religious person. That in Christianity, I think just like in Islam, it's not always encouraged. And he was told by, I can't remember who it was in the story, but to stay away from art school, and this battling of faith. And then I think Thompson's conclusion is, if there's no, to be a good Christian, you basically can't have a normal life in a sense. So I guess that is the conclusion in a way that Mongrel hints at, that it's finding that balance of following your own path as well as your religion.
What can you tell us about the whole idea of Mongrel? Was that like a defiant reaction to the culture at large, society at large? I'm Mexican American, and I feel the tension or the special perspective in being from two backgrounds. But somewhere in the story, you're saying that Mongrel could be said as a positive. What can you tell us about the whole thing? The idea of Mongrel.
I didn't see it so much as a defiant action. For me, it was my motivations were positive, and I wanted to. I was inspired by the previous graphic novels I read, and I thought, you know, people might actually find this interesting to see what it's like within a home of a Muslim growing up in Britain. And it wasn't until, I think, when you start talking about what it was like in your home and people start reacting, you know, like, oh, that's, you know, really unusual, that's not nice, you start realizing, okay, maybe I do conform a bit to stereotype, because being a white Muslim growing up in Britain, I thought that I would provide more of a perspective um, that isn't kind of, I think Spiegelman says the same thing when he did Mouse, that you realize that sometimes you conform to stereotypes. And that's kind of what happened in my journey. I realized, you know, when I talk about having a really strict upbringing, it's what people expect to hear from a Muslim female. And when I've met other, one thing that I've become conscious of is that this idea of the single narrative, or the danger of the single story taking over. And because I've met people since who've said my upbringing was nothing like this, my parents were really liberal and they have a similar background to me. So yeah, that's I guess, yeah, not a defiance, but just the motive was just to put another narrative out there, really.
Yeah.
And I think in the future, I perhaps would want to focus on the stories of other Muslim females with different upbringings, to, you know, to have kind of a fairer or broader background to put out there for people, and not just, you know, I know the journey isn't always easy in Mongrel.
All very well said. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of doing your book? Did you start, how did you start with, was it drawings and then a script and then storyboards, or how would you describe it?
So the first sequence I did actually got omitted from the final book, and it was about being force-fed and how valuable kind of food was in our house. Like, we weren't allowed to chuck anything away because it was a huge sin. And I started that by kind of thumbnailing and then drawing it out in draft in clearer images and then finalizing. And I kind of, after I did that, I had a clearer vision of what Mongrel would be after this small chapter. So then I started scripting the whole book in Word, not in a traditional script format, because I'm dyslexic. I like bright colors. So it was just a kind of a funky looking Word document, which I then would thumbnail, print it off and thumbnail, and then cut out and restructure on the floor, kind of thing. It's because things have to stay relatively visual for me. And I think for my final MA project, I finalized 4 chapters in total. And after the MA, I had a few months of just thinking about the story and trying to strengthen it. And I think you can tell which few chapters I did first, because the drawings aren't that great compared to later on in the book, and the narrative is a bit more choppy. So yeah, I feel like I've learned through this book my method of working now, which I'll take on to future projects.
Could you go through a few more images? Do you have,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the one with Shuna in her wedding dress, or there's so many that are really visually pleasing, and I could see them as works on their own, hanging on a wall quite easily. Do you
This one?
Well, that's a very nice one too. No, I was thinking of the one where she's in her wedding dress, but these are all.
Oh, that one is a wedding dress. In this presentation, I think that's the only one of the wedding dress I've put on.
Well, these are all of similar quality. Do you sometimes think, gee, it might be interesting to work this into a painting, or do you think this is the final result and that's that? Or
I have kind of framed them. I can show you. So this is one behind me. I always dropped that. So just have them displayed like that, and I've chosen my favorite ones, which includes this one in a frame. But in terms of a painting, there's a story I want to work on, which kind of carries on from Mongrel, but it focuses on Shuna's granddad. And it's briefly mentioned in Mongrel where about her granddad being possessed and being this spiritual leader and like predicting the future. And that I'm imagining with the kind of proportions of Mongrel, but painted, because I want it to be in full colour. So yeah, that is something that I want to push further.
Have you had a chance to show your work in a gallery setting much, or?
Yeah, I have. It was recently in an exhibition called The In Between, and it was about second generation immigrant experiences. And it's been in a couple of online galleries, I think, because of COVID. But yeah, I hope to display them in galleries next year.
Do you have any thoughts on comics as an art form? Because you're not all cartoonists have work that easily transfers from print to the wall. I think in your case, you do have that, where you can very easily take your work and show it on the wall. No one would ever question it. There's a lot of debate about comics as an art
Yeah,
form.
I
What are
think
your
when I
thoughts?
was making my originals, I was quite conscious that I do want them displayed. I do want them to be viewed as a piece of art in itself, and which is why I was quite precious over the originals, like looking after them, and of course they should be considered as art. When you take a individual panel and you blow it up, and you can see all the work that goes into it, and all the stylization within comics, and there's just so many dimensions within the narrative and image making. So when I see them in gallery places, it is definitely something that inspires, and I'm happy to see.
I don't want to miss asking you anything. If there's something that you think I should include
Uh,
in this talk, please feel free to jump in. I was thinking of the fact that it's autobiographical and you have the alter ego of Shuna. Is she going to be an
yeah.
ongoing character for you? Do you think you'll be
Um,
seeing her
so
throughout your
I think
career?
in the next book, I actually completely want to, so far, because I'm in the very early stages, um, and I did actually write the script. I think it was like 7, 8 years ago, the one about my granddad. But I think I'm going to go revisit it and just completely remove her and just focus it solely on the grandparents, because I want to completely take the readers into their world. And because from their perspectives, it's, when you've not been to this country, it's so hard to imagine, like when you let your child go off and marry, well, when you marry your child to a foreigner, you have no idea what their country looks like. So I think this might be the last of Shuna, to be honest. But actually, sorry, I just remembered that I was dabbling in animation, and I was doing surreal experimentation of Shuna with Amma, and doing this mother-daughter um, interaction. But I've realized animation is very time consuming compared to comics, and I just don't get the, I don't know, satisfaction that I do from making a page by the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
rather than having a second of clip.
Um, let me see. Is there something else that did you think we should mention? Do you feel that the
Um,
book represents what you say represents one aspect of Muslim culture and or religion? So you feel you've done a job well done?
I think I've portrayed one story okay, but I think for if you've never known a Muslim, or have never really had the opportunity to go inside a Muslim's home and get to know them, there's always that danger of everyone thinking every house is like this. So I would like to contribute more, or like to see other cartoonists, because I know there's another cartoonist in the UK releasing her experiences of growing up as a Muslim in Britain. So it's just everybody contributing to this discourse, really, to, I guess, expel notions of stereotypes within that are portrayed in the media.
Okay.
I think
well,
I just kind of repeated what I said earlier, so I don't think I added anything new just then.
Well, I think it's a great place for somebody who does their first graphic novel. It usually is autobiographical in some respect, and that seems to me the best place to begin. And then
Yeah,
usually a graphic novel is autobiographical in some way. It's kind of difficult to avoid. You're in there somewhere, don't you think?
yeah, yeah. It either inspires your fiction, or you just directly confront it. And it's something that I did for a long time, actually. But although I did, I try to avoid being personal in my work, and I like to create these kind of alien or fantastical worlds. And I realized I was just constantly projecting within these worlds that I created. So I guess this is a way to confront that and hopefully write good fiction after, because you've got it out of your system.
Okay, well, Mongrel recently published by Knockabout Comics, and it will be in the US starting in January 2021. And so I wish you the very best. Thank you so much for doing
Thank you,
that.
Henry. Thank you.
Yeah.